Okay, this video is something that is my confusion, and I want to explain it to you guys just in case some of you read this and get confused like me. It came to me the other day for some reason, and I was listening to somebody talk about this, and it just dawned on me. I see what Peter's saying now. So, many people know the day of Pentecost when the Spirit falls in Acts chapter 2 on the believers, and they start speaking in tongues, and everybody thinks that they're drunk. And Peter stands up and says, they're not drunk, paraphrasing, of course. This is that which was spoken of by the prophet Joel. So in the book of Joel, the prophet Joel in the Old Testament prophesied about that event. Peter says, this is that. Then the very next part is other things that Joel mentions, like a blood moon and an eclipse, and these things that are actually on the sixth seal in Revelation, in the sixth chapter, the sixth seal. The things that happened right before the day of the Lord. So what I thought that this was saying was that all of that was fulfilled. That everything, because it's all spoken of in the book of Joel. But the cutoff point is when Peter says, this is that which was spoken of by Joel. He's only talking about the things before, which was the day of Pentecost, Spirit falling on people, people thinking that they're drunk, but they're speaking in tongues. He's talking about that. He says, that was that which was spoken of by the prophet Joel. Because then it goes on to say this, and it shall come to pass in the last days, saith God, I will pour out my spirit upon all flesh. So it says, and it shall come to pass. So everything after that point is something in the future. You see, I used to lump it all together because everything talked about here is in the book of Joel. But the cutoff point where Peter was saying was fulfilled in Joel was them speaking in tongues and the Spirit falling. Because the Bible says, and it shall come to pass. And then it gives a laundry list of things like people that like the blood moon and the eclipse and the things in the sixth seal that precede the day of the Lord, that are before the day of the Lord. You see, there's a cutoff point right there. I didn't know that. For some reason, I lumped it all together, like Peter was saying, this is that which was spoken of by Joel. And then I would lump everything and say, oh, well, the blood moon and the eclipse and everything, the Spirit falling upon all flesh already happened. But he's not saying that. He's saying the things that were spoken of by Joel that came to pass, that were fulfilled, was only them speaking in tongues and the Spirit falling on them. After that, it makes a cutoff point right there. And then it says something new. It says, and it shall come to pass. And it shall come to pass. And then it goes into the blood moon and the eclipse, and solar and lunar eclipse, and the Spirit falling upon all flesh, and so on. The sixth seal. And it shall come to pass. That's the cutoff point. Peter's not saying that that stuff was fulfilled at that time because of that cutoff, and it shall come to pass. See, for some reason, my mind didn't recognize that break. Because for some reason, I thought in my mind that Peter was saying all that was fulfilled, but he's not. He's speaking of things before, and it shall come to pass. And then when we get to that, it's starting a new paragraph, and it's telling you, and it shall come to pass in the future, which it still hasn't. That your sons and your daughters will prophesy and see visions. The sun and the moon will go dark, right? The moon will turn to blood, and so on. All those things you could read about it. And for me, this is big because it used to always hang me up. I used to be like, well, if the sun, if the total lunar eclipse is already passed in prophecy, then what are we looking at these eclipses for? Sometimes it would dawn on me, Acts 2, but that's not what he's saying. He's not saying that was fulfilled. He's saying the Bible says, and it shall come to pass. And never did. That part of the prophecy never came to pass because that's not what it's saying. There's a break there. He's referring to when Peter says, well, last time, so I get it. When Peter says, this is that which was spoken of by the prophet Joel, only the things that had happened already was that which was spoken of by the prophet Joel that was fulfilled. Because then it says, and it shall come to pass, which it never did. The blood moon and the eclipse and the pouring out of spirit upon all flesh and the things in the sixth seal that are before the great and terrible day of the Lord. See, I didn't realize that for years now. But I see it now. So I just wanted to share that with you guys.